In a world where change is the only constant, Mo Shamil stands at the forefront, guiding title professionals to not just grow their businesses, but to master the art of innovation. With every episode, you're handed the keys to unlock unparalleled growth and stay ahead of the curve. Get ready for a transformative journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Title Agents Podcast. Today, I have the honor of having Adam Gurney, founder of Gurney Law Group, based in the heart of Chicago. Adam brings a boots-on-the-ground perspective from one of the most unique real estate markets in the country, where attorneys play a central role in the closing process, and every deal comes with its own complexities. Welcome, Adam.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you again for your time and help us share your knowledge and wisdom, but specifically about the Chicago market. I know every market is unique. First, we start off, would love to hear your background, your story, where you grew up and how you get started and all that fun stuff about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, Shaker Heights, Ohio specifically. I come from a family of lawyers. My dad was a transactional attorney my whole life, and my oldest brother is a PI attorney, personal injury, medical malpractice. And, I ended up going to law school and started my career in real estate law in 2013. I landed my first job out of law school with a solo practitioner, a guy by the name of Eric Miles, who started his own firm, built it up from the ground up, and then learned everything under him, everything from legally, but even more important, practically and service-wise and business-wise, and really how to be a true professional in this industry. And after learning under him for about 2 years, he moved to California, where he became a real estate broker, and he's thriving out there in that role. And I acquired his law practice from him. So I took it over from him, and really all the foundation, the standards, the procedures that he had in place, I just took over and ran with from there. And that was in about 2015. So ever since then, I've been on my own over a decade now. And, we've been growing every year since.
That's fantastic. And that's the Gurney Law Group currently, is that correct?
That's correct.
So our audience is all across the U.S. As you know, different markets, even sometimes different localities have different rules and customs and guidelines. And can you explain to our audience how things work in Chicago as far as closings, title, escrow, the relationship with attorneys, title companies, realtors, all dynamics at a high level?
Yep, absolutely. So the Illinois is an attorney state. So the attorneys play a crucial role in the real estate deal. In Illinois, the realtors negotiate the contracts, and the parties sign the contracts without ever engaging an attorney. And once the contract is signed, then the attorneys get involved, because every contract in Illinois includes what's called an attorney review provision or attorney review contingency, which means after the contract is signed, both parties have 5 business days to have an attorney review that contract and either approve it, cancel it, or propose modifications to it, which is generally what happens. So you think you have a contract in place, congratulations, signed contract, your offer 1 out of 20 offers, but now you still have to get through this attorney period and the inspection period, which also happens subsequent to the execution of the agreement. So once that contract is in place, the attorneys take over, represent the clients all the way from contract to closing. The agents assist and, from a business standpoint, work with the parties, keep the deal on track. But really, it's the attorney's job to oversee everything from contract to closing. And fortunately for the brokers, this is a great thing for them, because they don't have to, dip their toes into the territory of practicing law, negotiating agreements, writing legal language, or doing anything that, they could get in trouble for crossing over that line. So the realtors really value the attorney's role in the transaction. And when you get to the actual closing, while a lot of states just have one attorney representing the title company and facilitating the closing process, in Illinois, each side has their own representation. So each side is protected and has somebody only looking out for them, not just trying to get the deal done for the title company.
That's definitely a great benefit to have representation for each side. Definitely it's a huge plus. You talked about the 5-day review period or the contract. What are some of the
Yep.
common kind of
Modifications?
modifications, or because
Yeah.
you say I got to buy excited, you have an offer, accept it, then you have to wait on
Yep.
the attorney. What are kind of some
Yep.
mistakes we'll make, or I know every attorney is trying to protect their side. Out
Yeah.
of that, one of protecting your clients with the kind of the common rejections or
Yeah.
modifications or edits or
So there's a few modifications that are pretty traditional, and you'll likely see them on every attorney's, standard letter, which is typically you'll add a cure period in the event of default. You'll add appraisal language because the standard contract is pretty silent on the terms of the appraisal. What happens in the event of a low appraisal? They leave that to the attorneys and the parties to negotiate. In the event of default, what happens to the earnest money? What are the damages in the case? Typically, attorneys will try to limit the damages in a lawsuit to just the earnest money, try to remove the threat of litigation, from the equation for their clients. And tax prorations. That's probably the biggest. Every attorney review letter, we have to negotiate how the tax credit is going to work at closing because in Illinois, taxes are paid in arrears. So the seller is going to be giving the buyer a closing credit based on their potential tax liability. And it's the attorney's job to figure out what's an appropriate credit, or sometimes even we can't agree on that. We just agree on an escrow agreement. We'll wait for that bill to come out and address it after closing. So those are some of the more common modifications. Then you get into modifications that are necessary to address specific transactions. For instance, a post-possession scenario where a seller's remaining in a property after closing. There is a section of the agreement that addresses that, but usually there's more details that go into it, or maybe realtors didn't fill it out completely and there's some loose ends to tie up. So that's always going to be something that gets hammered out during the attorney review period, probably even proposing a formal separate agreement altogether that the parties go through and work out. Besides that, certain things, if it's an investment property, a buyer will want to make sure they have access to that property multiple times throughout the deal for measurements, quotes, bringing contractors in, things like that. Whereas the contract only provides for an initial inspection and a final walkthrough, they will want to, raise that so they have the ability to continue to, work on the property even before they own it, basically. Not actually do work, but like I said, get those estimates, get those measurements, and get things going. And besides that, just whatever individual situations call for. Maybe we have to change the closing date. A lot of times when there's tenants in the property, what's happening with those tenants? A lot of miscommunications there. Are we taking on these tenants? Or are we not? I'm buying it with the tenants, but I'm getting a primary residence loan. I have to be sure I can move in within 60 days. Okay, we have to provide certain notices, start getting the tenants out before closing. All sorts, anything about a real estate deal, we're going to button it up during that attorney modification period.
awesome. And you have a proprietary system kind of with all these tweaks and modifications, or is there a standard Chicago kind of a legal software that helps with all this changes?
Well, we definitely use case management software.
Okay.
My firm uses Smokeball. We used
That's
to
very
use
common.
Clio.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to use Clio. Now we use Smokeball, and that just helps us manage the deals. But we have standard attorney review letters for all different areas, and then we start with that and then tailor them to the specific transaction. Also, I forgot to mention, we have a ton of condos in Chicago, and that presents a whole different, list of issues and, leads to numerous other contract modifications to address the, all the variety of issues that can come up from a condo purchase.
Yeah, that was very well explained, Adam. Very good job.
Oh,
What's
thank you.
what's the most common and most preventable mistake title agents make that end up becoming a legal problem downstream?
Well, first and foremost, just not addressing all of the title issues that are in front of them in a timely fashion for closing. You might maybe sit on things a little bit longer, or maybe, if you're dealing with an estate, for instance, or a divorce, and you need court documents in order to close, or somebody might have a mortgage payoff, but they might also have an IDA loan, and you're working and you didn't quite get that in time for closing. So just, being super diligent with the title issues that you're aware of, number one. And then number two, I would say, a lot of times just relying a little bit too heavily on the title company. And as an attorney, not doing your own proper due diligence with a fine tooth comb to make sure that we're not missing title issues that we're not seeing on the title at all because they didn't come up in the exam or the search, perhaps because the title company overlooked them and then they get raised at the last minute, or maybe sometimes our office finds certain issues and we tackle them, whether it be maybe breaks in the chain of title or estate and probate issues, or any other, things having to do with tax sales in the past. But ultimately, just relying on the title company to find everything for you and not being diligent enough on your end can lead to problems down the road.
So if I heard you correctly, and I always say it's always communication, probably the key. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
issues, there's
definitely,
challenges, make sure
definitely
you communicate them
communication.
properly in timely manner.
Yeah, and just attorney oversight.
Yeah.
Title examiners, they know title, but they don't know everything about the law. And so sometimes those can be at odds with each other, the different
Absolutely.
understandings of a situation. The way a title examiner is going to look at a title issue sometimes might be different than the way an attorney looks at it. And so, the attorney oversight is crucial.
Yeah. Uh, is there a regulatory or legal developments in Chicago right now that title professionals should be paying attention to, but probably aren't?
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of trying to work brokers into the title commission structure, is probably the biggest issue. We'll see.
Can you explain? You and I know exactly what we're talking about, but
Yeah,
without the audience, like the
yep,
no Chicago, what's what
sure.
we're talking about?
Yeah, so let me back up. So with Illinois being an attorney state, the attorneys and also, again, the title company, each party having their own attorney versus just relying on one for the title company. Because of that, the title companies are essentially outsourcing this title work to the attorneys, and the attorneys are doing the title examinations and performing core title services as a part of these transactions. Because of that, they're getting compensated a commission on the title fees. So the title company is obviously making money off the deal, and they're going to pay a commission to the attorneys, typically the seller attorney in Illinois, for closing the transaction, right? And so realtors are the lifeblood of the industry. They're the ones on the boots on the ground making these deals happen with buyers and sellers, and they refer them to attorneys. And then the attorneys for doing the legal work are being compensated. Well, somewhere along the way, the agents said, there's a lot of money going around in the title industry, and we're the ones originating these transactions. We should get, a piece of this pie. And it started with just owners of brokerages owning title companies and trying to facilitate, their transactions from their brokerage all going to that title company so they could essentially double dip in that transaction and make money, obviously, on the real estate commission, but also try to make some on the title end. Then it went from there to title companies actually just trying to find ways to compensate agents directly. In the original model, the owner of that company is making money, but the actual title agents aren't sharing in the profits. But they would tell them things like, we're going to have great service and we can give you your money the same day as the closing. And we can just do things to make, little benefits to them outside of payment, actually making money. Then it got to the point where just title companies would reach out to brokers and just find ways to compensate them. They would tell them they could be title agents, or if they did this or that, they could earn a title commission. And that is definitely a risky area because you start ending up with brokers doing title services and they don't really know anything about title, and they end up in the middle of they end up with a lot of liability on their hands in the middle of some lawsuits. So now everybody is going back to the drawing board and trying to find creative ways to compensate brokers to try to steer that business, to that title company or to that attorney. And the attorneys, of course, want, the realtors not to have a hand in that part of the transaction because that cuts into our lifeblood and our, main source of revenue and, what we do as attorneys and are qualified to do. So that's something that's currently being worked on right now. I'm sure the IDFPR is dealing with it every day. And I think we expect a little bit more clarity in the future. It's been a bit like the Wild West, but I think there have been some lawsuits on it, recently. And I expect to see some developments as the year goes on and in the next year that we're hoping will provide a lot more clarity on what you can do, what you can't do in this industry.
The lawsuit, is it the bar or attorneys suing brokerages or?
No, I think it's just a title claim, that was made, but something significant. And it was a deal where the title agent was a real estate agent, and now a real estate agent is in the mix of a big lawsuit against a title company, which obviously they didn't even understand what was going on from the beginning. But now their work is being put, to the test. And I'm not even sure what ended up happening with that lawsuit. I just know from the standpoint that a realtor got caught, in the mix. And so now I think a lot of realtors are starting to understand, well, wait a minute, not anybody can just do a title exam or underwrite title. Maybe I should be relying more on my attorney and, things like that.
Yeah, it's very crucial to have attorney and a title companies in the loop. It's a big deal. I mean, it's trying to underwrite a transaction is not. It's nothing trivial.
Yep. No,
What
a
does
lot of risk there for sure.
absolutely. And as realtors, God bless them, they are looking for money, whatever they can get it, but they don't understand the risk piece. Like the risk part, everything is.
Yeah, it's simply not worth it for them.
Yeah, trying to explain that to them.
Right.
So with this feud and back and forth challenge between attorneys and realtors, where does RESPA fall into this? And especially with the realtor piece, they're trying to get a piece of
Well, yeah, RESPA is the governing body, RESPA and, the IDFPR. And that's what, anytime anyone's trying to come up with a model to make money in title insurance, they're going to talk with a RESPA attorney, an attorney that is knowledgeable in, the area of RESPA to make sure that it's compliant and, make sure it's not going to raise any red flags. And I think what the issue is that, some of these models, albeit RESPA compliant, still come with a lot of liability. And also, title work is a lot of work. And running a title agency or title company is a lot of work. And I think that a lot of brokers, they thought that maybe there's a way to just get a hand in that title pie without putting in a lot of work. But then over time, I think they're starting to realize, I'm a realtor for a living. I don't have time to also run a title company. That's a whole separate business, or even a title agency. I just want to make a few extra dollars, but I don't have time to put in work and learn a whole different industry. And so I think that's what they're finding out is, well, you can't really, if you're going to own a title agency, you got to own a title agency and put in that work, to earn that money. And it's hard enough just trying to make money as a realtor. They don't, have the time.
Yeah.
And so I think over time, a lot of these models are failing because they start it, they think it's going to be easy. They think just by doing their deals, they're going to be able to get, a piece of that pie. But then they realize over time that, they don't have the time to put in that work to really make that company grow and get to the point where they want it to get to really earn significant money.
Awesome. So you work exclusively with realtors as a source of business. How do you growth and business wise? How do you outreach to realtors? Is that through referrals or do events, or how do you market? How do you grow your practice?
Yeah, good question. So most of our business comes from referrals from realtors, and we're heavily dependent on real estate, on realtor relationships. It's not, 100%. We also have our own relationships with clients and investors, past clients, title companies, and lenders. But a lot of it does come from realtors, so we definitely, feel very strongly about our relationships with realtors and are constantly working on developing relationships with realtors, making our current relationships stronger and also developing new relationships. And the way we typically do that are referrals from existing real estate agents. Oftentimes they'll tell their friends, especially when they're at the same brokerage, hey, we use this attorney. We love him. He's great. And when a top realtor gives that advice to a realtor that's, not as successful as them, they oftentimes listen. So we definitely, thank our existing realtor partners for spreading the word about the great service that we provide. And then relationships with managing brokers that I've developed over time. A lot of times we do good work for an agent and they'll tell their managing broker about us. And then when they have when they're looking for sponsorships or partnerships or just looking for attorney guidance, whether it be, lunch and learns or seminars or CE credits, they'll turn to lawyers to come in and educate, their brokers on everything about a real estate transaction, legally and, practically, and how to work together with your lawyer to deliver the best service to your client. And so relationships with managing brokers, grant us those opportunities. And then finally, my relationships with title companies, they're often finding ways to get us in front of brokers at, the realtor CE seminars, sponsorships, and just other, opportunities to get in front of brokers, title companies, generate.
So the Chicago market is definitely there are tons of attorneys. So how do you differentiate yourself, and what's your value proposition to realtors, especially the ones coming back to you over and over again? What do you do so special that they add so much value they keep coming back to you?
Yeah. Service, communication, reliability, consistency, especially in the busiest times. Our thing is just service, service, service. We deliver with service. We're going to be, always responding quick. I have a team of paralegals that assist me, and they're all highly trained and experienced in this industry. We don't have people working for us with 1 to 2 years of experience in real estate. Our paralegals have 10 plus years of experience. And, our top paralegal is also a licensed real estate agent. So they understand everything about a real estate deal legally, practically, customer service wise. So we provide, complex legal analysis, quick. We're moving through the attorney review period faster than anybody. We never miss deadlines or closings. Our closings never get delayed because of us. You will never see show up at a closing and we're representing the seller and the seller's not ready to go to close that deal. Deals are never being delayed on our end. And we also, with modern technology, we're a bit on the younger side. Everybody that works here at our firm are in their 30s and low 40s. And we utilize all the technology that's available to us. A little bit of AI, but a lot of just our case management and all that allows us to really just crush these real estate transactions in high volume. Even when it's busy season, we just know how to crush them beginning to end. And from the client standpoint too, we understand the realtor has to make a good impression for that client, and we do too. And we're making sure that client has a great experience. So they're always going to refer that realtor and go back to that realtor on the next one.
That's awesome. That brings us to the next set of questions based on
Sure.
AI. One of my favorite topics,
Yeah.
automation and technology. Is AI automation and legal tech, is it actually changing real estate law, or is it still mostly noise? I would love to hear your honest take. And
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's changing real estate law, but it's
or
definitely
transaction, another law, I mean transactionally.
it's it's enabling us to flow through the transaction more efficiently. My team actually has a call with with Smokeball, our case management, set up for next week about how to better utilize their AI features. They have an AI bot called Archie, and Archie is like a chat GPT, but specifically for your case files. And it only knows your files. It doesn't have outside knowledge. And so every day we're finding new ways to just operate more efficiently through our case management and through Archie. I would say more so automation than AI at this point. Um, and it's not replacing our staff because, from my standpoint, that human element and that human connection and that human customer service is the lifeblood of our business. We're trying to relate to and connect to our clients and realtors, from a real human and personable perspective. So I want all my clients to have a human picking up the phone and handling their matters and having that human touch every step of the way. But my paralegals are learning how to operate AI. And that is what will separate them from other paralegals in the industry, is how to utilize AI for each stage of the transaction to make your job more efficient. And then when they do that, they can handle more transactions at a time than they otherwise would be able to. And down the road, it will save me time and money from having to hire that next paralegal,
And
because we're going to get tapped out later on than we otherwise would.
we're in my title company with a fairly similar perspective. I'm glad we think alike. It's literally about augmenting our team. It's very hard to find experienced paralegals or escrow officers or processors, the same term, different part of the country. And we're rolling out AI in operation and marketing. It's all about augmenting our team so they have more time for human interactions, answering the phone, that human touch. Like take 70-80% of mundane tasks out of their daily work so they can talk to
Yep.
people. That's my
Yep.
kind of my philosophy.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We're all for the automation and anything we could do just to make the whole process more efficient. So every day we're looking at, things we're doing manually and figuring how, like, is there just a more efficient way to do this?
Absolutely. And automation is a beautiful thing. And what I say to tell people, like some of the simple agentic AI will probably taking you half a dozen engineers in Eastern Europe to build something in a month. Now you can build it or through a smoke ball, you can build it yourself like in hours or a day or two, that is incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if we're building out Title GPT, that AI. That's more for to help realtors and attorneys build their content and brand. Also, lead generation is going to be a huge thing for realtors. It's all about
Yeah, I
tapping
already
leads.
know, AI is doing, you could do massive things with AI marketing wise, things that would take months and months to get data on and
Yeah.
figure out, they're able to just do, in abundance. I've already seen from a marketing standpoint, a lot of different tools that can do a lot of crazy things, hyper efficiently and on a real sped up timetable. But I don't focus much on marketing.
Yeah. So if you could eliminate one manual step that still exists in a standard transaction, what would it be?
Oh, good question. Um, in-person notary. I know they're working on it and they've changed the laws a little bit in Illinois. There are ways we can do a Zoom
Ron
notary
was the remote online
session,
notary.
the Ron,
Yeah.
but it's just not it's a little too difficult and stringent. It's like if I got you on Zoom and I can see your ID and I can get a picture of your ID and, and we're a law firm, we can make that decision that this person is who they purport to be. And it should just be able to be done a little bit more freely with a lot less restriction. For instance, if you have a deed that was executed through an online signing, you cannot change a single thing on that deed once it's been done. And it's like, why is this deed any different than a deed that was notarized in person? I mean, what's the difference? Because I met you on Zoom instead of in person.
Yeah, that's
We change deeds at the closing table all the time. They all have something that needs to be, they're never perfect in terms of the client's names, marital status, address, primary residence versus not, versus, where the deed and tax bills get mailed to, which gets put on the deed. Almost every deed I have to correct in some form or fashion. To say that you can't make a single pen mark on it just because it was online notarized instead of in person, I think is, a little overboard.
So what does a title agent actually have to do to go from a vendor to a trusted partner in your eyes?
Service. Service first and foremost,
That
make my
responsiveness, communication. When you say service, what up?
responsiveness and communication, like moving things through fast. We send a title order. We want that title commitment immediately because everybody's going to be following up in a day or two. The lender, everybody needs the title commitment. So like everything along the way, we need to be done fast and efficiently, making my paralegals' lives easier, less follow-up required. Number one, first and foremost. But then second, if you really want to be a trusted partner, I need to know that you're able to work through difficult situations with us and find solutions, not just, tell me where the red tape is and tell me that it can't be done because of it. I need to know that when we're in a jam, you're going to help me get out of it. When there's a solution, when we can't find a solution, we're going to work together to find that solution. And we're going to find ways to get the deal done, not find ways to not get the deal done. I need you to tell me what we can do to get it done, not tell me that, sorry, we can't get it done. I will never accept that as an answer in the title world. There's always a solution or a workaround.
I couldn't agree more. And I've been in title for 2 or 3 decades, and I don't believe there's ever been a transaction that did not close. There's always a solution. How much work I'm going to put into it to
Yeah.
solve it.
It's just how difficult are you going to be about it? How many different people do I have to call?
Exactly.
How many bells do I have to ring when it's like, just solve this, So
Exactly.
that's just the biggest thing first and foremost. If you can do those things and get us past hurdles, get us past issues and just make things easier for my staff, that's number one by far.
That's awesome. Well, we're getting very close to the end of this episode. There's been tons of wisdom and knowledge. I
Sure.
have a couple of questions that I always ask at the end of a podcast. So the first one is, do you have a favorite book or one that you read recently that you would like to share with us?
Yes. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was written by a sports agent from IMG, somebody that represented Tiger Woods and a lot of other top athletes over the year, and it was just years, and it was just all about his successes, his failures, things he learned along the way, and I found it to just be very intriguing and practically applicable. And
Uh,
the best quote from that book, which is also one of the biggest quotes I've been going back to, is when you're alone, you're in good company. And
Hey,
I tell that to my kids. I have 3 boys at home,
what are the ages?
7, 5, and 2.
Wow, that's tons of energy.
And, they'll fight and fight and fight. And the worst thing I could tell them is that they have to separate. I'm like, you guys are fighting. Just get away from each other. So they don't want to be alone. They'd rather be annoyed and with each other than alone. So I keep telling them, remember, when you're alone, you're in good company. It's okay to go be alone for a little bit.
That's an awesome, and I've never heard that. It's really, really good.
Yeah, cool.
Any last words of wisdom to share with our audience? And I cannot thank you enough for your contribution and insight.
Yeah. No, happy to do it. Happy to be here. Always, here to help, advance the industry and help educate and just help overall make our what we do, a little bit better across, specifically in Illinois, but if it helps across the country also. I know Illinois is kind of unique, but, I'm always happy to advance the industry and improve it any way I can.
You shared a lot of knowledge.
It's busy season, and you just, you got to always keep grinding. It's these last few years, ever since COVID, it's just been crazy. Lack of consistency, you never know. Is it going to be crazy? Are we going to get a ton of deals? Is the market dead? I mean, week to week, it's never been so volatile, and with everything going on across the country and the world, it just seems like unpredictable. So it's just, you just got to keep your head down, keep going. And another quote I always go back to is, the world meets nobody halfway.
Man, the two quotes I've never heard before. That's a great one. Well, Adam, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate you finding me, and anything else I could do, always feel free to reach out.
Well, thank you, Adam, for all your wisdom. That was awesome, sharing all your wisdom and knowledge about all the intricacies as far as title, insurance, and relationship with attorneys in Chicago. If you enjoyed this episode, would love and would appreciate if you subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
In a world where change is the only constant, Mohs Shamil stands at the forefront, guiding title professionals to not just grow their businesses, but to master the art of innovation. With every episode, you're handed the keys to unlock unparalleled growth and stay ahead of the curve. Get ready for a transformative journey